There's a very important maxim I live my life by, and it's this. There's only one thing better than a cup of tea, and that's 2 cups of tea. "16 years I've been here, living in this cave, looking out across the sea. We got a lovely wild and rugged coastline here. High cliffs and rock formations around beautiful sandy beaches and wide open vistas. You're probably thinking, why would someone live in a cave at all, let alone for 16 years? That's how long I've been here, 16 years. I meditate. I reflect. I keep watch on the cliffs. See that cliff edge there? Suicide spot. Plunge a couple of 100 feet and be dashed on the rocks before being carried out to sea. I feel it's my duty to watch over these cliffs and prevent any more people taking their own lives here. I suppose you could say it assuages my guilt. I have a reason to feel guilty, which will become apparent later. How much guilt could not be assuaged after 16 years suicide watching? How many people have I saved since I've been here? A couple of dozen, I reckon. And if they don't want to return to their old life, they walk along the cliff top about a quarter of a mile to an old half-deserted village. Pretty much a ghost town since the mines closed, and populated by people I saved. Some go back to their own worlds after spending time with me, and I'd like to think they're all still alive, but I don't dwell on it. And my reward for being the shepherd is to have the privilege of living here. Over there is my old mattress and a selection of rugs and blankets. Here's my little stove and my kettle. There's a few mugs and some cutlery. An old radio that needs new batteries. A chest with some possessions with sentimental value. And an old deck chair I found on the beach. The wind gently howls and rumbles through the cave. Random drips of water here and there. Sound of the waves so close and yet sounding so distant. Gulls cry now across the bay. The sound is liberating and melancholy at the same time. There's a rhythm to nature, you know. Sun sets. The moon rises, the moon sinks, the sun rises. Tide goes out, tide comes in. Gulls wake up and the gulls go to sleep. Every day just the same. I never had any constancy in my life and now I've found it. Buddha had his Bodhi tree, and I have my cave. And I truly believe that having been here so long with my own company, I have attained enlightenment and seen the truth of things. And those desolate souls I've taken away from the edge and brought into my home here have sad stories. They're lost in the guilt and shame of things they've done in their pasts. They're dissatisfied with what they have and they think everyone else has something better. They've reached a tipping point in their lives and they can't see any way forward. They can't see any way out. So I try to help them. Help them to realise that there is a way forward. There is a way out. And it don't involve jumping off no cliff. I don't rush over and haul them back. I just venture out, sidle over and comment on the view. They turn to me and nod forlornly, turn back and try and get into their thoughts. Well, I don't let them do that. I take their arm firmly, I bring them back to that bench down there. And then I invite them to my cave and wait for the reaction. With a bit of persuasion, fascination gets them to come with me, wondering what it's like living in a cave, wondering how I survive, feed, wash, toilet myself. Well, I can tell you, there's an outside toilet behind the pub. It's illegal to let people use it, but it's still plumbed in, so I has use of that. And then the next time I'm walking along the beach, I wash my hands in the waves. Salt water kills the germs. As for food, a lady from the village brings me my provisions weekly. Monday morning without fail. One box of stuff by the entrance. Never comes in. Never asks for money. It's just as well, because I haven't got none. Never knocks. Never speaks. Respects my wish for peace and quiet and my right to spend time with my own thoughts. Actually, I think it is Monday morning. You lose track of time when there's nothing constant. I don't have to set my alarm. I don't have to be at work by X o'clock. And I don't have to be home at a particular time, and that's not an issue. Because I'm always here. Or on the beach. Or in the toilet. Or at the standpipe. Let's see. Well, look at that. There it is. In the hamper. I always put it back once I've emptied it out. And at some point she comes and collects it. Sometimes I see her, sometimes I don't. She don't say nothing to me and I don't acknowledge her. That's just the way we do it. What have we got? Milk. A few pints of milk. Box of tea bags. That's good because I was getting low. Some drinking water. I mean, there's a standpipe in the village I fill my buckets from, but a nice bottle. That's a real treat. Eggs. Tins. Fruit. Cake. bread. Oh, she does spoil me. Oh, and some chocolates as well. Lovely. I'll put that light in this little alcove over here. It's my larder, this is. And now I can put the kettle on and have another cup of tea. People I talk to, they've lost sight of their real self. They're so wrapped up in the roles they play and the jobs they do that when that's all gone, there's nothing left. I am absolutely convinced that the emotional emptiness they feel is because they can't connect with themselves. I was like that after it happened. I just felt nothing. It was like watching the world go by from inside a block of ice. There was no joy. There was no nothing. When I talk to people I rescue, of course I don't tell them I know how they feel. Because of course I can never know that. But we have a connection. Not just spiritual, but emotional. I'm familiar with their emotional landscape, even though I can't see the individual features on the landscape. Does that make sense? Last week I talked to a young man and asked him why he felt his life had got to this point. His need for validation was so intense. He'd cry if one of his social media posts wasn't liked at least once. He thought nobody liked him because his tweets were never retweeted. He was convinced everyone else was having a better life than he was. He told me God had it in for him and he wasn't even religious. I told him it was fate that he chose the one spot along the cliffs where I was here to help. I told him it was not his day to die. I told him my story and that was very personal. I don't know if it helped. Maybe it did. Maybe it didn't. I don't just accost random strangers as they walk along the cliffs so I can talk to them and drink tea. I might be alone, but I'm not lonely. I just take pleasure in knowing they're enjoying the view. And I can always tell, like a sixth sense. "16 years ago I came here. I stood on the edge of the cliffs, right at the suicide spot, and I was thinking about jumping. But I obviously wasn't sure because I just stood there. I was there for ages. I don't know why I turned round. Maybe I thought I'd go over backwards or something so I wouldn't see the end coming. But I did turn round, and I saw this cave, and something just made me want to go inside. I didn't know what was in there, or even if anything was. I didn't know if it was safe. I just knew I had to go inside. And just at the moment when I walked in, I was overwhelmed. It was like a cocoon. Safe and warm and cozy. And at that moment I just knew I'd found my spiritual home and I never wanted to leave. I couldn't hang on to my old life any longer. It destroyed me. I sold everything I had, put the money aside and moved in here. And over time the village population's got a little bit bigger. But nothing else has changed. Makes you realise when you look out across the sea how insignificant we all are in the grand scheme of things. And life is transient. It can all change in an instant. And I appreciate each moment. When these are hard, I have memories and happy feelings to draw on to see me through. But the sea is constant. I know the tides will rise and fall every day. I know I can walk along the beach of an evening and watch the sunset. I know I can do all these things until one day comes and I can't anymore. I don't just talk the talk when I talk to people. I know what I speak. I was a psychiatrist. And the saddest thing is that the vocation I'd always wanted to take and the help I'd wanted to give led me to the point of suicide. I'd been seeing a patient who was very depressed. Her behaviour and her narrative seemed inconsistent. She told me she felt like killing herself, but I thought she had a personality disorder and it was all attention seeking. So I sent her home and said we'd meet again the following week. And that night she took her own life. On the way home she jumped in front of a train. I was devastated. I couldn't believe what I'd done. I blamed myself then and I blame myself now for her death. For days I just sat in a sort of living coma, like watching my stasis from outside my own body. An emotional numbness I can hardly describe or explain. I knew from that moment I could never practice again. My insurance company paid out, and I resigned from the register, and I never practiced again. Having seen this cave, and having felt compelled to go into it, I decided I had to make it a home. A new home for a new start. How would living in a cave make me feel better inside? I felt I had to make amends. Just got the thought there and then, from some divine spirit perhaps, that what I had to do was give my life to help prevent anyone else taking their own life. How many people will I have to save before I shed the burden of the guilt I have? Whether I deserve to start to feel better about myself or not, I do find so much comfort every time I stop someone ending their life here. How will I know when I serve my penance for the dreadful mistake I made? Will I feel contentment beyond that which I already have? Will I feel happy, whatever that is? Happiness is made from within, and if you're sad on the inside, it's hard to be happy. I see it as a state of mind. It's an attitude to life. It's a relationship with everything around you. It's appreciating how special the things you have are and not forever wanting something else. I have nothing now. Just a few personal possessions from early in my life. A few things with some sentimental value. And yes, I have money squirreled away in an account somewhere. But I've been happier here in my humble little cave with a handful of disparate souls who form the village community than I ever was in my previous life. Some people would wonder how such a lonely existence could bring any happiness. After all, we're all told we're social creatures, aren't we? I do miss companionship and laughs with friends. The only people I talk to are suicidal strangers, and I spend so much time counselling them. We never get to have a proper conversation. I got this herring gull, comes regularly and sits by the door and squawks at me. I talk to him. I think it's an him. I never really looked. I wouldn't know how. I'm quite observant, but I never seen a seagull's bits. I suppose they must have them. The males, you know. See, now I'm sharing the sorts of daft stuff I think about. Well, you do contemplate random things when you're all alone. I look up at the clouds and see if I can make faces in them. Then when I do, I talk to them. Or am I talking to God? I don't know. I mean, I might say hello to the odd walker if I'm sitting outside when they pass. They give me a funny look, thinking, what's Captain Birdseye doing sitting outside a cave? You could stuff a cushion with my beard if I bother to shave it off. I'm in a good emotional place at the moment, as far as good goes for me. I don't feel burdened by any particular emotion. I don't feel like crying today because I got nobody in my life anymore, but sometimes I do. It's nice to be able to be alone. Sometimes I wish I wasn't, though. It was Sartre, wasn't it, who said hell was other people. I don't know if he was right. Depends on who the other people are, I suppose. Some days I feel angry, I don't know why. I think of myself not as angry, but just being with anger for however long it's my companion. I always look at emotions in that way. Generally, I just acknowledge things are the way they are. They just are. Why bring emotion into it? Seeing emotions as transient companions helps me not to be taken over by them. I suppose most of the time I just feel contented and happy. But much of the time I just feel blank. But in a good way, not like before. It's a different sort of blankness. More like ambivalence. Sometimes life can seem very dark, and we wish we'd appreciated more of the times when we had things to appreciate. But in the darkness, if you look hard enough, there'll always be a light. Might be the flame from a candle, a lonely star, or a moonbeam. And I know this to be true. A light shines in the darkness. A light shines in the darkness. A meditation on loneliness and suicide was written and performed by Rob Chantler. The producer was Victoria Lawrence, and it was a free theatre company production.